G'day folks, how's it going? Coming at you today with a bit of a off-the-cuff video about my first impressions of Metroid Dread. This is not scripted or anything like that. I've just been enjoying the game so far and just wanted to share my thoughts. I myself am, I would say, a fan of Metroid, but not a huge player of Metroid, if that makes any sense. The only Metroid games I've played is Metroid Prime 2, and I have only recently played Super Metroid, so that's sort of the extent of what I know and what I'm going in with sort of into Metroid Dread. Take with that what you will. At the point of this recording, I've been playing the game for about 6, 7, maybe 8 hours. I haven't checked exactly. And TLDR, I think it's worth picking up if you like that style of game. This isn't a review or anything, just sort of my thoughts and yeah. So I'm just going to cover a few different basic things, gameplay, controls, graphics, that sort of thing. Oh, and I guess minor spoilers, but the footage I'll use is just like the first hour of the game and maybe a little bit of the first boss, because I always want to talk about the bosses a little bit. But yeah, so the gameplay, yeah, it's like your standard Metroidvania. You've got a huge map made up of all these different sections where certain parts of it you can only go into after you've gotten certain power-ups, and it's really fun. The movement, the gameplay, it feels intuitive, it feels fun, but it also feels sort of still like classic Metroidvania. They haven't strayed too far from that. It works really well, and I think it still feels old school whilst feeling intuitive and fresh, if that makes sense. Get your classic Metroid power-ups like your missile upgrades, the morph ball, you got Samus's power-up suit and all that sort of thing. But they all feel fresh. They all feel like there has been consideration taken to make them feel like the old school stuff, but still really a punch. Combat feels clean as hell. You've got all of your projectiles. It all hits with a punch when it hits an enemy. And my god, can we just take a second to talk about... So they added this thing which is sort of like a counter finisher to some creatures when you fight them. Every now and then a monster will try and hit you with sort of a melee attack, and there will be this flash of light. And if you melee at the right time, Samus sort of hits them back and auto aims at them. You pull the trigger and boom, there's sort of this little camera zoom in cinematic finisher. And it makes me coom every time. It sort of reminds me of like God of War finishes, that sort of thing. And anytime you're having that dynamic camera change, it just hits so much different, and I absolutely love it. On top of that, the boss fights so far that I've come across are fun, but pretty challenging. I'm not going to talk about anything past really that first boss, but I've had a couple where it's taken me a few goes, even with the pro gamer status that I have. The game also does a surprisingly good job at being scary. I didn't think it would live up to the name of the game so well. There are certain parts of the game where you're literally running away from things that you cannot kill, you cannot deal with, you just have to get out of there. And it does a surprisingly good job at instilling you with fear and, well, dread. So that's the gameplay. Let's quickly talk about the graphics. I think the game looks great. I think it's really pretty. I think that they've done what they can with the Switch hardware, which, as we all know, is underpowered by sort of current gen standards. But yeah, I think they've maximized what they can with what they've got, and it looks fantastic. It looks stylized, it looks clean. Samus's new design is fantastic as well. Every now and then there'll be a close-up. You can see some blurry, iffy textures, but that's sort of few and far between in my experience. The animations look great, everything's smooth, everything is crisp, everything hits hard, it's done really well. The game runs really well as well, though I have had a couple of minor, very short frame dips, only a couple of seconds here and there from time to time. It doesn't really impact the game overall, it just, just switch things. The controls, for the most part, they're pretty good. As I said, it feels really smooth, it feels really clean, traversal feels really good. They are a little bit clunky, and I think that's because of some of the button combinations. If you want to move while shooting a missile in any direction that isn't just forward, you have to hold both shoulder buttons while controlling the left stick and press Y to fire. So there's a lot of inputs, and it can just sort of feel a little bit clunky in combat when you're also trying to jump and move and all that sort of thing. The story so far, so good, I've found. It's your pretty standard Metroidvania affair. You spend a lot of time running around and shooting things and attacking things and finding secrets whilst having little snippets of story appear here and there, but I think it's conveyed really well. I think that Metroid obviously has that down to a science a bit, and yeah, there's a reason it's half of the namesake of an entire genre. So yeah, those are my basic thoughts. Just a little bit of an off-the-cuff video, guys. I thought you might enjoy. Be sure to like and subscribe below if you like the video. We've got a lot more stuff coming through in the near future. So yeah, that's it. That's about it. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you later.